Well, it's taken a while to get this video done. I've been taking my sweet time with it, but better late than never, I guess. To give a little backstory, this is based on a debate that happened on the Speakeasy channel. The topic was what we call racism is really other forms of hatred, not race-based hatred. So kind of a lengthy debate topic. But basically what happened was after the debate was over between JS and Marte, the open panel happened, and then the debate topic essentially became racism isn't real. So that's where I came in on the panel side, and I started to run an internal critique against this idea. Didn't do the best job. I got a few points in there, but after giving it some thought, I was able to, I think, come up with a very effective counter argument that I think kills both premise one and premise two of that argument that we discussed in the after panel. I got premise one and premise two of the argument from Speakeasy after we discussed it for about an hour or so. And after I was done questioning him, I asked him if this was an accurate statement of premise one and two, and he agreed. So that's what I'm basing this off of. That's what this internal critique is based off of. So let's get into it. So premise one, the claim is racism isn't real because what people call racism is actually hostility towards behaviors, crime, violence, culture, not immutable traits like skin color. So I'm going to deliver the counter to this in a syllogism form. Premise one, claims about a person's motivation are only meaningful if there is a method to distinguish true motive from rationalization. Okay, premise two, the claim people who express hostility towards a group are always motivated by immutable factors, crime, culture, behavior, rather than race, relies entirely on self-reported explanations or external speculation about internal mental states. Premise three, there's no reliable, observable method to falsify the claim that stated reasons are not just post hoc justifications rather than the true motive. So conclusion, therefore, the claim that racism is not real because hostility is always about non-mutable traits is unfalsifiable and cannot logically establish its conclusion. So the argument assumes that when people say crime or culture, that explanation reliably reveals their true motive. But motives are private. They're private mental states that we don't have access to. Without a way to distinguish genuine reasons from rationalization, the claim becomes unfalsifiable, and you're not disproving racism this way. It's assuming the conclusion based on self-report and an unproven presupposition. This is, I think this is a really good defeater for premise one, but I have even a better defeater for premise two. So let's get into premise two, because this one is, in my opinion, undeniable. So, premise two. Racism doesn't make sense because race has no universal definition. Here's the rebuttal for this one. I'll deliver this in a syllogism as well. Premise one. Many real and useful categories have fuzzy or convention-dependent boundaries. Premise two. A category's lack of a universal boundary does not imply the category is unreal or meaningless. Premise three. Race can be a fuzzy category while still being socially recognized and used in practice. Conclusion. Therefore, race has no universal standard does not logically entail racism isn't real or race isn't real. You don't even have to claim race is biological. This works even if it's a social claim. So here's a really good example. How many grains of sand does it take before it becomes a beach? I think that analogy maps on quite beautifully to the situation. What about tall versus short? How tall does a hill have to become before it's a mountain? These are all fuzzy categories. And also, on top of this, it's a fallacy. It's called the continuum fallacy. Just because you don't have a clear, distinct point where A becomes B does not entail A and B do not exist. Okay, so I know that some might watch the video and the question will come up again like it came up, 15, 20 times in the after panel when we were discussing this topic. Okay, what is race? How do you identify a race? What is it? What does race even mean? I would say there's very straightforward descriptors we can use to identify different races, and it's something like this. Race is a broad classification of human populations based on shared genetic ancestry expressed through statistically common, immutable physical traits that cluster by geographic lineage. The thing to note here is statistically common, okay? So, example, people of European descent would have, on average, lighter skin tones, narrow nasal bridges, straighter hair. Or you find yourself someplace like Somalia or East Africa, you find traits like darker skin pigmentation, tightly curled hair, distinct cranial facial clustering. You don't need universality with these things. Statistical clustering is enough for this. I think this works as a descriptor. It checks all the boxes. It works on a genetic level, geographical level, ancestry level. If there's a better description out there, or if someone thinks there's something wrong with this one, I'd love to hear what it could be or what they think is off about it. But I think this makes logical sense. And just to put this out there, just because the internet is such a very interesting place, this isn't a dig at JS or Speakeasy. Nothing but complete respect for both of those guys in the debate field. They're both good debaters. Respect them both. This is simply a critique at the argument. I know they understand that. I know they don't give a shit, but you know how some people will just go around and say things and try to clip things out of context. So that's all this is. And I would love to hear JS and Speakeasy's counter arguments to any of the claims I made in this video, any of my rebuttals. Some of them I don't see how they can be defeated, but who knows? Maybe they have some logical train of thought that we could discuss that might bring new light to the situation. I'm always open to hear another argument. But we'll see if that comes out in another panel somewhere or another time. Until then, that's really all I have. So you have the information, you are armed, go forth and conquer. And I'll see you next time.